Good evening, fair listener, and welcome back to Evelina. Thank you so much for joining me last night and for your very, very kind comments and support. It means an incredible amount to me, and I'm really glad that I can be of some help in some small way in making social isolation a bit less isolating. So, last night we had an introduction to the backstory of our heroine. And if you were very diligent, as I'm sure you are diligent, dear reader, you will have come up with a family tree that will look something like this. Having now fully acquainted yourselves with the characters in question, let us recommence. Letter the third, written some months after the last. Lady Howard to the Reverend Mr. Villars, Howard Grove, 8th March. Dear and Reverend Sir, your last letter gave me infinite pleasure. After so long and tedious an illness, how grateful to yourself and to your friends must be your returning health. You have the hearty wishes of every individual of this place for its continuance and increase. Will you not think I take advantage of your acknowledged recovery if I once more venture to mention your pupil and Howard Grove together? Yet you must remember the patience with which we submitted to your desire of not parting with her during the bad state of your health, though it was with much reluctance we forbore it to solicit her company. My granddaughter in particular has scarce been able to repress her eagerness to again meet the friend of her infancy, and for my own part, it is very strongly my wish to manifest the regard I had for the unfortunate Lady Belmont, by proving serviceable to her child, which seems to me the best respect that can be paid to her memory. Permit me therefore to lay before you a plan which Mrs. Mervyn and I have formed in consequence of your restoration to health. I would not frighten you, but do you think you could bear to part with your young companion for 2 or 3 months? Mrs. Mervyn proposes to spend the ensuing spring in London, whither for the first time my grandchild will accompany her. Now, my good friend, it is very earnestly their wish to enlarge and enliven their party by the addition of your amiable ward, who would share equally with their own daughter the care and attention of Mrs. Mervyn. Do not start at this proposal. It is time that she should see something of the world. When young people are too rigidly sequestered from it, their lively and romantic imaginations paint it to them as a paradise of which they have been beguiled. But when they are shown it properly, and in due time, they see it as it really is, equally shared by pain and pleasure, hope and disappointment. You have nothing to apprehend from her meeting Sir John Belmont, as that abandoned man is now abroad, and not expected home this year. Well, my good sir, what say you to our scheme? I hope it will meet with your approbation, but if it should not, be assured I can never object to any decision of one who is so much respected and esteemed as Mr. Villars, by his most faithful, humble servant, M. Howard. I'm sorry, I have to stop there. I mean, just listen to this. When young people are too rigidly sequestered from the world, their lively and romantic imaginations paint it to them as a paradise of which they have been beguiled. I mean, come on, yes. The world outside is very romantic indeed. You know, Tesco's, the street, the bus. It's just so romantic. Also, you know, you've nothing to apprehend from her meeting Sir John Belmont. Yeah, I'm sure that absolutely nothing is going to happen there. Mr. Darcy was definitely not expected at Pemberley either. So, you know, not that I'm trying to indicate any foreshadowing here. Just bear it in mind. My apologies. We continue. Letter the 4th. Mr. Villars to Lady Howard. Berry Hill, 12th of March. I am grieved, madam, to appear obstinate, and I blush to incur the imputation of selfishness. In detaining my young charge thus long with myself in the country, I consulted not solely my own inclination. Destined in all probability to possess a very moderate fortune, I wish to contract her views to something within it. The mind is but too naturally prone to pleasure, but too easily yielded to dissipation. It has been my study to guard her against their delusions, by preparing her to expect and to despise them. But the time draws on for experience and observation to take the place of instruction. If I have in some measure rendered her capable of using one with discretion, and making the other with improvement, I shall rejoice myself with the assurance of having largely contributed to her welfare. She is now of an age that happiness is eager to attend. Let her then enjoy it. I commit her to the protection of your ladyship, and only hope she may be found worthy half the goodness I am satisfied she will meet with at your hospitable mansion. Thus far, madam, I cheerfully submit to your desire. In confining my ward to the care of Lady Howard, I can feel no uneasiness from her absence. But what will arise from the loss of her company, since I shall be as well convinced of her safety as if she were under my own roof? But can your ladyship be serious in proposing to introduce her to the gaieties of a London life? Permit me to ask, for what end or for what purpose? A youthful mind is seldom totally free from ambition. To curb that is the first step to contentment, since to diminish expectation is to increase enjoyment. I apprehend nothing more than too much raising her hopes and her views, which the natural vivacity of her disposition would render but too easy to effect. The town acquaintance of Mrs. Mervyn are all in the circle of high life. This artless young creature, with too much beauty to escape notice, has too much sensibility to be indifferent to it. But she has too little wealth to be sought with propriety by men of the fashionable world. Consider, madam, the peculiar cruelty of her situation. Only child of a wealthy baronet, whose person she has never seen, whose character she has reason to abhor, and whose name she is forbidden to claim. Entitled as she is to lawfully inherit his fortune and estate, is there any probability that he will properly own her? And while he continues to persevere in disavowing his marriage with Miss Evelyn, she shall never, at the expense of her mother's honour, receive a part of her right, as the donation of her bounty. And as to Mr. Evelyn's estate, I have no doubt but that Madame Duval and her relations will dispose of it among themselves. It seems therefore as if this deserted child, though legally heiress of 2 large fortunes, must owe all her rational expectations to adoption and friendship. Yet her income will be such as may make her happy, if she is disposed to be so in private life. It will by no means allow her to enjoy the luxury of a London fine lady. Let Miss Mervyn, then, madam, shine in all the splendour of high life, but suffer my child still to enjoy the pleasures of humble retirement, with a mind to which greater views are unknown. I hope this reasoning will be honoured with your approbation, and I have yet another motive which has some weight with me. I would not willingly give offence to any human being, and surely Madame Duval might accuse me of injustice if, while I refuse to let her granddaughter wait upon her, I consent that she should join a party of pleasure to London. In sending her to Howard Grove, not one of these scruples arise, and therefore Mrs. Clinton, a most worthy woman, formerly her nurse, and now my housekeeper, shall attend her thither next week. Though I have always called her by the name of Anville, and reported in this neighbourhood that her father, my intimate friend, left her to my guardianship, yet I have thought it necessary she should herself be acquainted with the melancholy circumstances attending her birth. For though I am very desirous of guarding her from curiosity and impertinence, by concealing her name, family, and story, yet I would not leave it in the power of chance to shock her gentle nature with a tale of so much sorrow. You must not, madam, expect too much from my pupil. She is quite a little rustic, and knows nothing of the world. And though her education has been the best I could bestow in this retired place, to which Dorchester, the nearest town, is 7 miles distant, yet I shall not be surprised if you should discover in her 1,000 deficiencies, of which I have never dreamt. She must be very much altered since she was last at Howard Grove, but I will say nothing of her. I leave her to your ladyship's own observations, of which I beg a faithful relation, and am, dear madam, with great respect, your most obedient and humble servant, Arthur Villars. Letter the 5th. Mr. Villars to Lady Howard, 18th of March. It's almost catching up to present. Dear Madam, this letter will be delivered to you by my child, the child of my adoption, my affection. Unblessed with one natural friend, she merits 1,000. I send her to you innocent as an angel, and artless as purity itself. and I send you with her the heart of your friend, the only hope he has on earth, the subject of his tenderest thoughts, and the object of his latest cares. She is one, madam, for whom alone I have lately wished to live, and she is one whom to serve I would with transport die. Restore her but to me, all innocence as you receive her, and the fondest hope of my heart will be amply gratified. Arthur Villars. Letter the 6th. Lady Howard to the Reverend Mr. Villars, Howard Grove. Dear and Reverend Sir, the solemn manner in which you have committed your child to my care has in some measure damped the pleasure which I receive from the trust, as it makes me fear that you suffer from your compliance, in which case I shall very sincerely blame myself from the earnestness with which I have requested this favour. But remember, my good sir, that she is within a few days' summons, and be assured I will not detain her a moment longer than you wish. You desire my opinion of her. She is a little angel. I cannot wonder that you sought to monopolize her, neither ought you, at finding it impossible. Her face and person answer my most refined ideas of complete beauty. And this, though a subject of praise less important to you or to me than any other, is yet so striking, it is not possible to pass it unnoticed. Had I not known from whom she received her education, I should, at first sight of so perfect a face, have been in pain for her understanding, since it has long and justly been remarked that folly has ever sought alliance with beauty. She has the same gentleness in her manners, the same natural graces in her motions that I formerly so much admired in her mother. Her character seems truly ingenuous and simple, and at the same time that nature has blessed her with an excellent understanding, and great quickness of parts, she has a certain air of inexperience and innocency that is extremely interesting. You have no reason to regret the retirement in which she has lived, since that politeness which is acquired by an acquaintance with high life is in her so well supplied by a natural desire of obliging, joined to a deportment infinitely engaging. I observe with great satisfaction a growing affection between this amiable girl and my granddaughter, whose heart is as free from selfishness or conceit as that of her young friend is from all guile. Their regard may be mutually useful, since much is to be expected from emulation, where nothing is to be feared from envy. I would have them love each other as sisters, and reciprocally supply the place of that tender and happy relationship to which neither of them have a natural claim. Be satisfied, my good sir, that your child shall meet with the same attention as our own. We all join in most hearty wishes for your health and happiness, and returning our sincere thanks for the favour you have conferred on us. I am, dear sir, your most faithful servant, M. Howard. Letter the 7th. Lady Howard to the Reverend Mr. Villars, Howard Grove, 26th of March. Be not alarmed, my worthy friend, at my so speedily troubling you again. I seldom use the ceremony of waiting for answers, or writing with any regularity, and I have at present immediate occasion for begging your patience. Mrs. Mervyn has just received a letter from her long-absent husband, containing the welcome news of his hoping to reach London by the beginning of next week. My daughter and the captain have been separated almost 7 years, and it would therefore be needless to say what joy, surprise, and consequently confusion, his at present unexpected return has caused at Howard Grove. Mrs. Mervyn, you cannot doubt, will go instantly to town to meet him. Her daughter is under 1,000 obligations to attend her. I grieve that her mother cannot. And now, my good sir, I almost blush to proceed, but tell me, may I ask, will you permit that your child may accompany them? Do not think us unreasonable, but consider the many inducements which conspire to make London the happiest place at present she could be in. The joyful occasion of the journey, the gaiety of the whole party, opposed to the dull life she must lead if left here with a solitary old woman for her sole companion, while she so well knows the cheerfulness and the felicity enjoyed by the rest of the family, are circumstances that seem to merit your consideration. Mrs. Mervyn desires me to assure you that 1 week is all she asks, as she is certain that the captain, who hates London, will be eager to revisit Howard Grove. And Maria is so very earnest in wishing to have the company of her friend, that if you are inexorable, she will be deprived of half the pleasure she otherwise hopes to receive. However, I will not, my good sir, deceive you into an opinion that they intend to live in a retired manner, as that cannot be fairly expected. But you have no reason to be uneasy concerning Madame Duval. She has not any correspondent in England, and obtains no intelligence but by common report. She must be a stranger to the name your child bears, and even should she hear of this excursion, so short a time as a week, or less, spent in town upon so particular an occasion, though previous to their meeting, cannot be construed into disrespect to you herself. Mrs. Mervyn desires me to assure you that if you will oblige her, her 2 children shall equally share her time and her attention. She has sent a commission to a friend in town to take a house for her, and while she waits for an answer concerning it, I shall for one from you to our petition. However, your child is writing herself, and that, I doubt not, will more avail than all we can possibly urge. My daughter desires her best compliments to you, if, she says, you will grant her request, but not else. Adieu, my dear sir, we all hope everything from your goodness. M. Howard. Letter the 8th. Evelina, to the Reverend Mr. Villars. Howard Grove, 26th of March. This house seems to be the house of joy. Every face wears a smile, and a laugh is at everybody's service. It is quite amusing to walk about and see the general confusion. A room leading to the garden is fitting up for Captain Mervyn's study. Lady Howard does not sit up a moment in a place. Miss Mervyn is making caps. Everybody so busy. Such flying from room to room. So many orders given and retracted and given again. Nothing but hurry and perturbation. Well, but, my dear sir, I am desired to make a request to you. I hope you will not think me an encroacher. Lady Howard insists on my writing. Yet I hardly know how to go on. A petition implies a want, and have you left me one? No, indeed. I am half ashamed of myself for beginning this letter, but these dear ladies are so pressing. I cannot for my life resist wishing for the pleasures they offer me, provided you do not disapprove of them. They are to make a very short stay in town. The captain will meet them in a day or 2. Mrs. Mervyn and her sweet daughter both go. What a happy party! Yet I am not very eager to accompany them. At least I shall be contented to remain where I am, if you desire that I should. Assured, my dearest sir, of your goodness, your bounty, and your indulgent kindness, ought I to form a wish that has not your sanction? Decide for me, therefore, without the least apprehension that I shall be uneasy or discontented. While I am yet in suspense, perhaps I may hope, but I am most certain that when you have once determined, I shall not repine. They tell me that London is now in full splendour. 2 playhouses are open, the Opera House, Ranelagh, and the Pantheon. You see, I have learnt all their names. However, pray don't suppose that I make any point of going, for I shall hardly sigh to see them depart without me, though I shall probably never meet with such another opportunity. And indeed their domestic happiness will be so great, it is natural to wish to partake of it. I believe I am bewitched. I made a resolution when I began that I would not be urgent, but my pen, or rather my thoughts, will not suffer me to keep it, for I must acknowledge, I cannot help wishing for your permission. I almost repent already that I have made this confession. Pray forget that you have read it, if this journey is displeasing to you, but I will not write any longer, for the more I think of this affair, the less indifferent to it I find myself. Adieu, my most honoured, most reverenced, most beloved father, for by what other name can I call you? I have no happiness or sorrow, no hope or fear, but what your kindness bestows, or your disposition may cause. You will not, I am sure, send a refusal without reasons unanswerable, and therefore I shall cheerfully acquiesce. Yet I hope you will be able to permit me to go. I am, with the utmost affection, gratitude, and duty, your Evelina. I cannot to you sign Anville, and what other name may I claim? Letter the 9th. Mr. Villars to Evelina. Berry Hill, 28th March. To resist the urgency of entreaty is a power which I have not yet acquired. I aim not at an authority which deprives you of liberty, yet I would fain guide myself by a prudence which should save me the pangs of repentance. Your impatience to fly to a place which your imagination has painted to you in colours so attractive surprises me not. I have only to hope that the liveliness of your fancy may not deceive you. To refuse would be raising it still higher. To see my Evelina happy is to see myself without a wish. Go then, my child, and may that heaven which alone can direct, preserve and strengthen you. To that, my love, will I daily offer prayers for your felicity. Oh, may it guard, may it watch over you, defend you from danger, save you from distress, and keep vice as distant from your person as from your heart. And to me, may it grant the ultimate blessing of closing these aged eyes in the arms of one so dear, so deservedly beloved, Arthur Villars. And that is where we will pause for now. The Reverend Mr. Villars has got over his fear of letting his daughter out of his sight. Evelina has finally spoken and made an appearance in this narrative. We will be hearing a lot more from her subsequently. Rather less from Lady Belmont and her and Mr. Villars' moral strictures. And the fun starts next episode when Evelina goes to London. For, as Jane Austen says, if adventure will not befall a young lady at home, she must go out into the world to seek it. Good night, friends.